My dear heart, let me tell you something our grandmothers knew. What if the very peace you've been chasing outside of yourself could be called into your home with nothing more than a handful of salt? Not the salt on your table, but the sacred salt of intention, of wisdom, of old prayers remembered. Put salt in these 5 places, and you won't just cleanse your house, you'll awaken it. Salt is not merely a seasoning to lift the flavor of a dish. It is the whisper of the earth's oldest prayer. It is the residue of oceans long gone and of tears that have fallen across centuries. Salt carries memory in its tiny, crystalline form. It remembers what the soul forgets. It has been in the hands of midwives and warriors, healers and housekeepers across time and place. Where words failed, salt spoke. Where prayers were silenced, salt held space. It is the quiet witness to suffering and the silent partner in healing. Salt has been placed in the corners of rooms during birth and death, scattered across thresholds to protect the living from what should not follow them in, and poured into water to cleanse what the spirit could not carry any longer. It has lined wounds and seasoned bread. It has tasted both sorrow and celebration. It is both remedy and ritual. When you hold salt in your palm, you are holding not just a mineral, but an ancient memory of the land, of the body, of the soul. Salt is never just salt. It is what the earth gave us to hold our power without shouting, to purify what we dare not speak, to preserve what must never be forgotten. It does not spoil, it does not fade, it does not pretend to be more than it is, and yet it does more than we could ever fully understand. The doorway to your home is not just an entry, it is a sacred boundary between the world outside and the sanctuary within. It is where energy shifts, where intentions are carried in by the feet of those who enter, and where spirits, welcomed or not, seek passage. To place salt at your threshold is to draw an invisible line and say, "Here, only peace may pass. Here, only what feeds the soul may enter." Salt at the door is not decoration, it is declaration. It is a sentry made of earth's wisdom, standing guard without sword or sound. It listens, it watches, it absorbs the residue of every argument held just outside, every bitterness that tried to cling to your clothes before you walked in. It catches the weight of unkind glances, of jealous thoughts, of heavy silences that strangers or loved ones might carry unknowingly on their backs. This salt does not scream to be seen, but its work is mighty. It reminds the home who it belongs to. It tells the air inside to stay soft, to stay sacred. When you place salt there, you are not simply protecting your space, you are reclaiming it. You are making a spiritual agreement with yourself that what you allow inside your home must be worthy of your rest, your peace, your breath. You are teaching your house to breathe in harmony, to hum with clarity, to stand like a womb around your weary spirit. The threshold is where you shed the day, where you take off more than shoes. It is where you leave the performance, the pretending, the pressure. It is where you walk back into yourself. And salt, ancient and silent, will meet you there with open arms and no judgment, holding back what must not follow you into your place of peace. There are places in your home that the sunlight forgets, quiet corners where dust collects not just on the surface but in the spirit. These are not just forgotten spaces, they are keepers of energy. The words you didn't say, the tension that passed between glances, the grief you buried beneath daily routines, all of it finds refuge in the corners. These places become cradles for the weight you didn't know you were still carrying. Salt in the corners is not superstition, it is sacred housekeeping. It is the act of turning toward what has been ignored, of acknowledging the invisible webs that stretch between sorrow and silence. These corners are not empty, they remember. They remember when you stood in them crying, hoping no one would hear. They remember the laughter that once echoed and the long silence that followed when that laughter left. They remember your footsteps, your pacing, your praying. And salt, with its quiet strength, knows how to draw it all out. It does not fear the shadow. It enters the forgotten places without judgment and with purpose. Salt goes where your broom cannot reach and where your hands hesitate to touch. It absorbs what you are ready to release. Even if you've never spoken it aloud, it sits patiently, doing the work of healing where you thought healing wasn't needed. When you place salt in the corners, you are saying, I see what I've hidden, I see what lingers, and I bless even that. You are calling light into the unseen. You are cleaning with your spirit, not just your tools. The salt becomes a bridge, from the heavy to the light, from the secret to the sacred. And in time, the air shifts, the silence softens, the heaviness lifts, not with fanfare, but with faith, not with force, but with presence. There is a hush beneath the bed that no one speaks of, a silence that listens while you sleep. It cradles the restless turning, the late-night sobs muffled by pillows, the whispered prayers you think no one hears. This is the place where dreams are born and where nightmares linger long after the dawn. Under the bed is where your spirit lays its armor down, where the self that smiles by day curls into its truest shape in the dark. It is not just dust that gathers there. It is emotion, raw and unresolved. To place salt beneath your bed is not ritual for show. It is a return to reverence. It is the understanding that rest is not simply physical. It is emotional, spiritual, ancestral. Salt under the bed is a mothering presence. It says to your soul, I know what you're carrying. I know what you try to forget. I will hold it until you're ready to release it. Salt does not rush your healing. It waits. It anchors you when your mind drifts too far into the shadows of worry or the ache of memory. This salt does not demand dreams free of sorrow, but it invites the peace that allows those dreams to be reshaped, softened, rewritten. It absorbs the echo of sleepless nights when you stared at the ceiling wondering if you were enough. It catches the vibrations of old fears still haunting you in new ways. It draws them in and breaks them down into something lighter, something purer, something that no longer has power over you. Salt beneath the bed is a vow to your inner child that the monsters are no longer welcome here. It is a shield woven from the earth itself, guarding your most vulnerable moments. You do not have to explain what you feel here. You do not have to be strong here. You only need to lie down and let go, to let the salt remember for you, cleanse for you, carry what you can't name until you're ready to wake whole again. The kitchen is not just a place of meals. It is the heart's workshop. It is where the soul rolls itself into dough, where laughter is mixed with memory, where stories simmer low and long on the stove. In the kitchen, life is stirred, grief and joy, hunger and healing, past and present. This is where generations gather even when no one is physically there. This is where love wears an apron and sacrifice smells like roasted garlic and boiled rice. This is where salt belongs, not only in the pot, but on the altar of intention. To place salt in the kitchen is to bless the nourishment, not just of the body, but of the being. It is to say, may everything prepared here feed more than flesh. May it strengthen spirit. Salt in the kitchen is an offering to the unseen hands that taught you how to cook, to care, to show love through meals when words felt clumsy or heavy. It is a sacred ingredient, older than fire, trusted by every culture, every table, every famine, and every feast. And in this space, where tempers may rise with the heat, where silence may settle during breakfast, where memories may ache with every old recipe stirred again, salt becomes a guardian of peace. It soothes the air. It calms the invisible tensions that sometimes linger between generations, between unspoken wounds passed down in spoons and gestures. It absorbs the worry that clings to the corners of counters. It blesses every meal made in love and forgives the meals made in haste. The kitchen is where you learn that care is a practice, not a performance. That flavor comes from attention. That healing often begins in small daily acts. Washing rice, cutting onions, stirring broth. And salt, steady and silent, is always there. It teaches you that a little goes a long way. That even bitterness, when met with the right touch, can be balanced. That what is stirred with presence becomes more than food. It becomes medicine. It becomes memory. It becomes home. There is a quiet holiness in the space where the light filters through. A windowsill is not merely a ledge, it is a threshold between what is within and what lies beyond. It is the pause between the inner world and the ever-turning outer one. It is where shadows shrink back in the morning, where the first golden beams gently kiss the floors and the walls and the back of your tired hand holding a cup of tea. It is where the breath of the wind whispers stories from trees you can no longer climb and skies you have not yet touched. And on that sacred lip of stone or wood or glass, salt waits, silent and vigilant. To place salt on the windowsill is to make an agreement with the day and all it brings. It is to say, whatever comes through this light, let it come clean, let it come kind, let it come with clarity. Salt in this place does not shout or sparkle. It absorbs, it listens, it balances. Just as it draws moisture from the air, it also draws tension, confusion, and stagnant thought. It gathers what does not belong and holds it there, unmoved, until the next cleansing wind comes to take it away. The window is a frame through which we view both the world and ourselves. It is where we long, where we imagine, where we sometimes ache for what we see and believe we cannot have. How many times have you stared out a window not just to look, but to feel, to remember, to hope? The soul presses its face against the glass like a child, fogging it with breath, trying to find its reflection in the lives of others passing by. Salt at this window says gently, "Come back inside, love. All you need is already within you." The windowsill is where the seasons announce themselves without needing permission. Rain taps its fingers against the pane. Autumn sends rust-colored leaves swirling like forgotten letters. Winter frost traces lace patterns only the cold can draw. And salt remains, steady through them all. It does not melt. It does not scatter unless you ask it to. It is your quiet companion through the shifting world, a reminder that you do not have to open every window to every wind. Windows are portals of energy, whether you choose to believe in spirits or only in sunlight. What is certain is that the energy of the world lives in motion, and it seeks places to enter. The windowsill becomes a boundary, not to block out, but to filter, not to deny the world access, but to give yourself the power to decide how that access occurs. Salt becomes a kind of spiritual strainer, catching what's heavy, allowing only what is light enough to pass. This is where old souls sit and write. This is where plants stretch their necks toward the morning. This is where cats curl into crescent moons and nap without fear. This is where your mother once placed her coffee and stared silently into the distance, where your child might one day press handprints and wonder at the sky. This is where time both pauses and moves forward. And when you place salt here, you are adding your intention to that space. You are telling the light, I see you, I receive you, but only in peace. Salt on the windowsill is an invitation for clarity. It is a container for hope. It is a boundary made not of bricks, but of trust. It will sit there day after day, catching the remnants of sadness drifting in from the street, collecting the questions that hang in the early morning air, absorbing the ache that sometimes rides in on the sunlight, dressed in old memories. And it does so without ceremony, without applause, without expectation of thanks. It is a guardian without armor, a filter without force. It says, "Here let the light enter, but let it enter